I think if you juxtapose the state's case with the defense's case, both in quantity and quality, it's at best a draw. And there's some who think that the defense outdid the prosecution in the case. The biggest problem for the prosecution all along is that they've always been trying to fit a square peg in a round hole with regard to Porter. Trying to make him out to be this callous, uncaring, indifferent individual is contrasted by the testimony that came out of his relationship with Freddie Gray and others in the community. Even the gentleman that took the video out there, who was it that he approached when he objected to the way his buddy Freddie Gray was being treated? Porter. He went right to Porter. It shows Porter's relationship with the people in the community. In addition to that, you have that Officer Porter is lower on the totem pole. He's relayed this information about Freddie Gray's need for medical care to his superiors. Goodson is the owner-operator, if you will, of the transport van. He has authority over anybody he is transporting. And so to lay this at the feet of Porter, again, is I think incongruent with the facts of the case. In addition to that, the defense is correct. The state fails to show that but for Porter's actions or inactions, that Freddie Gray would have lived. And that's important. His actions had to have led, or inaction, led to the death of Freddie Gray. And as the medical examiner, one of the medical examiners testified to, forensic pathologist, he can't say whether it was a minute or 28 minutes, but that if there had been some care provided, Freddie Gray could have survived. Well, it would have taken longer than a minute to get to the hospital. So no one can definitively say beyond reasonable doubt that the delay, that not taking him right away from 4 led to the demise of Freddie Gray.
What are you trying to accomplish as a defense attorney with closings? What are the two sides very quickly trying to accomplish?
Well, what you want the jury to understand, to buy into, is that it's okay for them to have suspicions, unease, discomfort, but that's not beyond a reasonable doubt. They've got to conclude that based on the evidence that they've heard, the law that they've been given, that there is not one reasonable doubt about this person's guilt. And I think that there is a huge amount of question as to whether or not the inactions in this case of Officer Porter led to the death of Freddie Gray.
And what does the state need to accomplish?
Well, the state has to dispel the notion that there is this absence, that there is certainty about the cause of death, that Officer Porter is directly responsible because of his inaction, and that if he had acted as a reasonable police officer, which they again didn't provide any expert testimony about, that Freddie Gray may have lived. And again, that goes to a point that the defense made, is that the defense put on expert witnesses who testified that Porter's actions were reasonable as a police officer. The prosecution didn't put on anybody in that regard to indicate that the way Officer Porter acted was not reasonable and inconsistent with the way a reasonable officer would have acted. Freddie Gray is one of 42,000, I think they tested about 42,000 arrests in 2014 alone. So there are tens of thousands of people who are arrested. And quite frankly, if Freddie Gray had not died, Freddie Gray would have been a defendant on that case in this very courthouse fighting for his liberty, and the same state attorney's office would have been prosecuting him.